Welcome back everyone to the SAE podcast. And today we are tackling one of, if not the most sought after and the most difficult circuits in the world. That's the Macau GP.
Yes, definitely. Today we are going to the Far East, right, where the place, the barriers are iconic, the speeds are terrifying, and history is written in the carbon fiber shards. We are talking about the Macau Grand Prix, right, the legendary Gaia circuit. So let us start off with the raw stats. Maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, to just lay some groundwork. The Macau GP is about 6.1 kilometers long. That's about 3.5 miles or 3.8 miles for the Americans. And it has the number of turns on it are quite controversial. Because people consider some turns to be just kinks or bends. So the number varies between 22 to 24 or 25 sometimes. But one of the most peculiar things about the circuit is, do you know what that could be, Sanjeev?
I mean, it's not exactly a wide open highway or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's the minimum width. Like you said, it's a public circuit. So for most days out of the year, it's open to the public. So you could be driving on the track, and maybe an hour later, people could be driving TCRs, GT cars at close to 300 kph. And that's why it's a restricted circuit. So basically, it's open to racing only for a few days or a few couple of weeks around the year.
It might be pretty exciting then to know that you're able to drive on the same track where, legends of the sport like Ayrton Senna or, many more have driven on the same track. But let us start off with what this is exactly famous for, the Hall of Infamy, the biggest incidents or accidents that have happened here, let's say. You
Well,
know,
we that is what a lot of people do look up to when looking at a circuit, because every famous circuit has had its fair share of incidents. You see,
okay,
any circuit, if I recall correctly, it's 2018 in F3 when this happened. So Sophia Florsch, she's a German racing driver. She's quite well known in the community,
okay,
and so basically heading down in T1, not T1. That is the heaviest, heading down to the heaviest braking zone in the first sector of the circuit. She lost control when she went into the rear of another car. And
okay,
obviously, these are Formula 3 cars, so they are very aero sensitive.
right.
So she went into the back of another car, lost her front wing, spun out. And that would be fine. That happens a lot in the lower formulas.
Okay.
We have seen a lot of it in Formula 1 this year.
Sure, yeah. And yeah, I remember the footage. It was like, it looked horrible to be honest. It looked like a car like launched like a missile or something and landed into the. It was the photographs bunker, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, the photograph stand. So it would have been fine if that was just what had happened. But obviously, it's a heavy braking zone. So they had sausage curbs on the entry and the apex there. So when she
Okay.
slid on that, she launched off the sausage curb, and if I'm correct, she launched about 10-15 foot into the air and just hit the photographer's booth. And it was crazy. I mean, it was nothing we had seen before in modern like formula racing.
Let's try to
You would have
imagine how it happened.
you would have seen the clips, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, sure did. And it is
But
also like a miracle to think that she survived safely, hopefully.
yeah,
Thankfully, I mean, yeah.
luckily that was, I mean, you could call that miracle of modern motorsport technology, that even after such a massive shunt, her she did come out alive. I mean, she did have some major spinal injuries, but again, she is, if I'm correct, she is back into racing now.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely. And the another thing that comes to my mind is what happened in the 2017 GT World Cup. Does it remind you of something?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's less of an incident, and I mean, it was serious, but it was
Yeah.
more funny for the viewers than serious. So, uh, heading into the police bend, if I'm correct, it's quite a bend, and although GT cars, they are not as aero sensitive, they do obviously rely on aero, and the bumps, a combination of the bumps and the aero and the draft just caused one of the cars, the leading cars, to go into the barrier, and that obviously
Okay.
just led into a parking lot. There were, if I'm correct, over 10 cars. I think just around 15 cars that had a massive pileup. It almost looked like a day in Bangalore.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can agree on that.
and the circuit was completely blocked. And uh, luckily, I mean, there were crashes and small. There was an incident, but luckily there was no major incident or injury to anyone in that.
Okay. Yeah.
One more I can actually I wanted to talk about this is the Lawrence Vantour. I'm pretty sure
Yes, yes, I remember that as well. Yeah.
if you follow any motorsports on Instagram or Reels, you would have seen the clips of this. That is when I remember seeing this live. I mean, like on YouTube actually. Uh, I think this was the ultimate lap. So Lawrence Vantour, he was driving his Audi,
Yeah.
and around the Mandarin Bend, I mean, there's a reason this circuit is called extremely dangerous, especially in GT cars. It's very difficult. It's taking that bend flat out is it's very sketchy. It's similar to, or I would even call it more dangerous than Arusian's Spa Francorchamps.
Yeah.
So Lawrence Vantour, obviously, he was under pressure. He's a great driver, but he was under pressure and by the Porsche behind, and he basically hit the barrier very hard, and
Okay.
his Audi somehow flipped over.
Yeah, I remember the footage of that as well. It went sliding on its roof for like hundreds of meters, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, and that was crazy. I mean, and he still crossed the finish line.
Yeah, he still finished as the winner of that race.
I mean, no, it wasn't technically the finish, but he because that was such a massive incident, the race was red flagged, and because of that, they had to consider him the winner because he crossed the finish line first, and that was crazy.
Yeah, definitely another event that not any of us would forget. And maybe it is not all miracle escapes though. There is one MotoGP incident, that is arguably the most dangerous race on the planet, in my opinion. Does it remind you of something?
Stop. It's not MotoGP. It is motorcycle racing, but it's not. Okay, I
Oh,
think it's wrong here. MotoGP. I have to
okay.
go.
My bad.
Motor race or something. It comes under Macau GP only. The Macau GP motorcycle race or something you can put.
Okay, then shall I just tell, like, it is not all miracle escapes though. Like, there were dark incidents that have happened.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you
yeah.
can just continue on whatever you do.
You do the motorcycle one if you want.
Meaning,
The you say no. Acha, okay, fine, fine, okay.
I just
No,
said that not this thing, then you just tell all the technical or like the stuff, incidents.
okay, okay.
But it's not all miracle escapes though. There have been some dark incidents on this track, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I recall correctly, looking at my notes, there was an incident in 2017 where, I mean, Philip Yaw and Louis Carrera, they did have a massive incident, and they both lost their lives in massive incidents. And
One sec, one sec,
that,
one sec, one sec, one sec. That was in 2012.
Abdiya,
2017 was Daniel Hagerty.
Haggerty. Oh,
Hegarty.
okay, 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 okay.
Daniel
Fine.
Hegarty. That was 2017. This is 12.
12, okay.
Uh,
Fine, okay. Started.
But it is not all miracle escapes, though, right? We have had some dark incidents on this track as well.
That's obviously true because looking at the caliber of the circuit, obviously there's nothing compares to it, and because of that, people have had to pay the price. You see, I remember in 2017 there was Daniel Haggerty. He was a motorcycle racer, and he did lose his life at the Fisherman's Bend, and that's quite sad. Even a few years earlier, there were Louis and Philippe Yaw, if I'm correct. Philippe Yaw was actually in touring cars, TCR racing. So they did also lose their lives in tragic incidents, which sort of brings perspective to what this track actually entails. And like before every race, people do have to bring themselves back into reality to see what they're actually racing at.
Yeah, sure. Like it is definitely a sobering reminder, that while we love the spectacle, the risks these drivers and riders take is also absolute.
That's true.
Yeah. So now let's move on to the next session, maybe. We have mentioned about multiple bends and corners throughout this conversation. So let's just walk the listeners through a lap, right? You're sitting on the grid, the lights go out, and you're charging towards turn one. So how do you start?
So as you start out, first, not exactly a corner, like I said. The first bend that you face is called the Mandarin Bend. So
Okay.
that lies next to the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. That's obviously great marketing for them, calling it the Mandarin Bend. But
Yeah.
it's terrifyingly fast. It's a slight right-hander. It's almost full throttle. So you see something like a Formula 3 car, it would, in most cases, it would be just full throttle, although with quite a lot of bumps. But you see something like TCRs and GT cars, especially. So in
Mhm.
GT cars, they have a lot of downforce, but that corner is just on the limit that when you have a heavy fuel load or you have quite worn tires, you wouldn't be able to take it flat. There's a very slight lift in that.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's something similar to, say, the Mutkava in the Nordschleife or Arouge in Spa-Francorchamps. So that
Okay.
in
Yeah.
qualifying, you might be able to take it just flat, but you
Right.
have
Right. Right.
to absolutely commit to
Be
it.
precise. Yeah.
So that is so. Formula cars, they another tricky factor I can think of would be the suspension because you see it's a street circuit and it's a very raw street circuit if you ask me because it has not like one of the more refined circuits that they are making in Madrid and Baku now. They are very flat, I would say, compared to this.
Right. This is more for like a wild circuit.
Yeah. It requires there you to make a very uh, discrete compromise between the suspension setup. So, if you say run a softer setup,
Okay.
you would have better uh, compliance and you would have better feel of the car,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
your car would be less agile.
Sure. Yes.
It would want to stick to the straight line more and would want to turn less. The mid corner turn in would be worse. Obviously,
Right.
drivers do not want that. They want to get the maximum rotation out of the car that they can. So again, if you go for a more stiffer setup, you can do
Mhm.
that. You can get better rotation into the corners. But then again, you would be just bouncing on the main straight. You're
Yeah. It
like
could cause any
again
damage to the car. If
100%. That has happened in the past when people
okay.
run very low setups and very soft suspensions, very
Hmm.
stiff suspension. Sorry.
Right.
So on the straight, that is, you see GT3 cars hitting 280 kph. If you hit a uh, decent bump at this speed and you lose control, there's no coming back.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's a DNF for you and maybe the 10 people that are following you right behind.
It's like definitely again a tricky part. Like you'll have to either decide on if you want a perfect car that is in your control, but compromising the factor that if anything goes wrong, it is just done. You can't come back from it that easily. Right.
100%. And one more thing I would say, like you mentioned the Melco hairpin. Do you think what could be? It's quite unique to this track specifically. Do you think what could be the challenge that comes with the hairpin?
I mean, it's mostly like you'll have to immediately slow down and maybe the gearbox, I'd say, because it is genuinely the trickiest part of the whole circuit in comparison to
That
other circuits as well.
that is right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is one of the slowest. Like I said, you practically go to 30, 20 kph. That is regular
Okay.
road speeds on that. So
Yeah, from
gearbox.
290 to almost 300 we dropped down to 30. That's 10%.
Obviously, yeah. So that is a massive. So this track specifically requires a gearbox, a gear ratios change, I would say. So you would have a very short gear ratio, first gear to accelerate out of that corner. Otherwise, you'd just be bogging down and slowing down in that corner. But what I had in mind was the uh, steering lock modification that you have to make. So
Okay.
you see the Monaco hairpin,
Hmm.
the drivers have to just send full crank almost a 360 degrees to get around that hairpin.
Okay.
That hairpin in front of Melco is like I would say Formula 3 and even the lower formulas they race here a lot. That's
Okay.
where a lot of the people on the current Formula 1 grid and the lower formulas actually come from. So
Hmm.
you see, a lot of Formula 3 and Formula regionals have driven here, and that's where a lot of the recent Formula 1 grid that you see is actually from. So you see Lewis Hamilton. So you see, even a lot of regional Formula and Formula 3, Formula 4, they do race here because, and that's actually where a lot of the current Formula 1 grid comes from. So they did have
Okay.
to progress through lower formulas, and
Mm.
even famous names like Thomas Preening and Dan Ticktum, they have
Right.
raced here. And
Right.
along with that, one another mention is the TCR cars that race here. They are product versions of production cars that have modification made to them. So it's a track that brings a lot of that requires a lot of passion and faith in your skill to be able to race here. And that's why the names that you see that race here are quite literally some of the biggest in the world.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, this track again, like we have spoken about before, it is given us a lot of drama in the whole time. Like one that is on top of my head, I want to tell was like, if you remember in 2017, Dan Tickum had won the race because the leading two racers had crashed in the final corner. Right? You can never ever count on your chickens at Macau until you have crossed the final line.
That is 100% true. I do remember that as well.
Hmm. Right. So then I think that is our time for today. And if you're a racing fan and if you haven't watched the Macau GP, do yourself a favor and go down to YouTube. Check out all those videos out there. Definitely you'll have a lot of fun. And we did too, talking about the circuit, Sandy.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So then see you all in the next video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Bye bye.
Bye bye.